Hi, my name is Nicole and this is my competency video for wrist and hand. My partner helping me out today is Camille.
Starting with pronation, I'll have the client in a seated position with their elbow in 90 degrees flexion in neutral rotation. The axis is going to be lateral to the ulnar styloid process. This stationary arm is going to be parallel to the longitudinal shaft of the humerus. And the movement arm is going to be resting on the dorsal side of the ulnar and radial styloid process. As you can see, I'm checking for compensation, so their elbow or their shoulder could move. However, this client is doing great. I'll have them pronate and then read my measurement. That'll be 75 degrees. Next up is manual muscle testing for pronation. I'm going to have the client in a seated position with their elbow in 90 degrees flexion and a neutral rotation. As you can see, I'm testing their passive range of motion, and then I'm going to ask them to do it by themselves, which is active range of motion. I can see they can do their full range, so I can apply resistance. I'm going to stabilize at the distal aspect of the humerus, and I'm applying resistance, all 3 pressures, and they can withstand it, so it's a 5. Next up is manual muscle testing for gravity minimized. As you can see, their humerus is supported on the table and their shoulders abducted to 90 degrees. Their elbow is also flexed to 90 degrees and the forearm is in a neutral position. And I'm just palpating while they do their pronation. Next up is ulnar and radial deviation. Let's start with ulnar. So the client for both positions are going to be seated with their shoulder abducted and elbow flexed to 90 degrees. The forearm is pronated and supported on the table. The axis for both is the capitate. This stationary arm is the dorsal midline of the forearm, and the movement arm is the dorsal midline of the third metacarpal. I'll have them do their ulnar deviation. I'll take their measurement, which is 13 degrees of ulnar deviation. I'll have them come back to the center into a neutral position so we can do the radial deviation. I'll have them do the radial, measure to the third metacarpal, and that is 14 degrees of radial deviation. And I'm making sure they don't compensate their wrist or their forearm. Last up, we have thumb carpo-metacarpal extension. The client is going to be seated with their forearm supported on the table. The axis is going to be the palmar aspect of the first carpo-metacarpal joint. The stationary arm is the ventral midline of the radius. The movement arm is the ventral midline of the first metacarpal. All right, we're going to make sure there's no compensation at the wrist. Put our axis back down, measure at that first metacarpal. Take note of that, which is going to be 45 degrees. Have them extend their finger. Measure again, and it's 60, so that'll be 15 degrees of thumb carpo-metacarpal extension. Next up is thumb extension manual muscle testing. I'll have the client in a seated position with their forearm supinated and resting on the table. The wrist is in neutral. The MCP and IP joints of the thumb are extended. I'll passively do their range of motion, and then I'll ask them to do it by themselves, so that is active range of motion. I can say they can do a full range, so I can apply resistance. I'm going to stabilize the sides of the first metacarpal and apply resistance, and they can do all 3 pressures, so that's a 5. Last up is gravity minimized, so I'm going to palpate the extensor muscle tendon and have them do the extension, and it looks good, so that'll be a 2.